Hi, everyone. If anyone is out there and has questions for me, you can go ahead and email laugh with Israel. And I'm getting some dings, so I think I have some questions. What's really important is that we all understand the campaign, which is not laughing at Israel, but laughing with Israel. And what exactly does that mean? We've given you some great examples on our website at israelforever.org or laughwithisrael.org. Some really funny examples there of how you can use humor to make a point and how to do it in a classy way, in a way that's not necessarily offensive. I think one of the people that does that best is someone like Jerry Seinfeld, for example, who was recently here in Israel touring for the first time. He performed, and what he noticed about his trip and how he expressed that on The Daily Show. It wasn't in a way, it was a way that was poking fun, but it wasn't laughing at. He was really laughing with, because he had been here, he had experienced it, and he was expressing it. And I think we all do that, especially Jews around the world. We're the kings and queens of mom jokes, mom guilt, mother-in-laws, and that's done with love. So I think that's like your basis, is how do you know when you're doing something funny and not just making fun of? Is there an element of a respect? Would you feel comfortable saying it to your grandparents? That's always that's what I think sometimes, right? Like lines of what is offensive, what is too much. Could grandma and grandpa handle that? So I think those are some of the things. I'm just looking here while I'm chatting with myself or maybe other people to see if there are questions coming in. And I'm telling my boss, Alana, who is the executive director of Israel Forever, that I'm on air because we were concerned, but we're very excited to be doing this. And oh, I forgot some big news that I did want to share, which I think really shows how effective Laugh with Israel can already be. When there was just breaking news that Roseanne Barr, who is a top comedian, is coming to Israel to be a part of a conference here and to tour Israel. And she has been an advocate of Israel. But I think that she uses humor. She's always used humor in everything she has done. You can see through her shows, her stand-up. Now she's a judge on Last Comic Standing. She's always just used that as her personality to express and advocate for things that she believes in. And I think you see that with things that she's done that can be controversial. And I think that for her supporting Israel, that's the same idea. And I think that she makes a very strong presence through her comedy. And I think that's why comedy works, because comedy has no boundaries. It's limitless in the sense that you can do comedy without speaking a language, so you can reach everybody. And that's something that I know from working with birthright groups and having the Israelis on the trip and the Americans or Canadians or British people, whoever you are, even Russians, anyone, you're able to transcend a culture, a society, a language through humor. And that's what I see. I see people reaching out through their jokes. And so without being too analytical or spiritual, I think you can really find your way. So again, I'm going to revert back to the suggestions I made before, which is that you should really check out Giggle Bites. They should be Google Bites in my opinion. They should be just as, okay, so here's a good one. I have a comedy troupe called Hahafuch here in Israel, where we do humor based in English, making fun of our own lives living here as a coping mechanism for survival, which I do believe is very Israeli. And that's why I think for Israel, who Israelis often use dark humor, where they will make fun of the war as it's happening to us, or terrorism, or even the Holocaust, which for some is very hard and shocking. But as a writer of a very popular comedy show, which is like The Daily Show here, called Eretz Nahadera, once explained to me, there's nothing funny about the Holocaust, but there's everything funny in surviving it. So I think it's really important that you understand that that's Israeli mentality. And that's what I think this contest is trying to say, this campaign is trying to say, that it's okay for us to be laughing. As long as we're laughing together and not at each other, that's how we're all going to survive anything. Being in the diaspora, being far away from each other, trying to understand each other, trying to understand the news that is happening around us, trying to understand different cultures around us. So for me, with that said, being a new immigrant to a country that I was only exposed to on birthright myself and really didn't know the language and didn't understand the culture, coming into that, rather than crying about that, I would want to survive that. And I survived that through my own humor, laughing at what's going on in the situation, laughing at myself, laughing at others, laughing together. So one of those things, I created a 30-second commercial based on a very popular thing here called Choco in a Bag, which is just chocolate milk in a bag. In and of itself is pure genius. That's like Startup Nation classic. What? Who would think to have chocolate milk in a bag? And like, there's something so gross and delicious about ripping into that chocolate milk and then chugging it. So I said, like, well, now that I've been exposed to this part of the culture and now that I understand it, I'd like to now make fun of it to show that I'm a part of it. And I did that by creating hummus in a bag, right? Because Israel and the Middle East, we're all fans of hummus here. And it feels like hummus is a side of everything. It's everywhere. So why not take it to that level of like, yeah, I'd grab myself a bag of hummus and just rip it up and chug it down. And so that's what I did with hummus in a bag with someone who was in my comedy troupe while he was here, here in Israel, who is now, of course, one of the judges here in our contest, Aaron Friedman. And you can see him. He's so great and he's so funny. And he does his own thing now back in America with Jews and traveling all over the country. I think if I'm correct, I just saw that he's in Nashville, which is so great to see that he's doing like Jewish stuff in Nashville, because I always get excited when I'm like, what? There are also Jews in that part of the world, and there are. So here, Bible players are officially in Nashville. See, I'm not making that up. And so they go out there and they reach out. And here, another great post from him from the JCC Manhattan. He said, it's been a week and we're still glowing from a terrific performance by our students, JJP at the Manhattan JCC. That's like way too many J's. What makes Jews laugh? So I think that he is really able to reach out, understanding that concept. And he, as an American Jew who is living in Israel, through the humor of writing sketches that involve mistakes in Hebrew that are so common for us to make, so painfully common for us to make. Just understanding certain cultural things like driving here, which is like most terrible. I mean, forget terrorism, driving is way scarier. And also that they take so many lessons and they're still horrible, and playing off of that, like you see new drivers everywhere and learners, and you're like, but you're horrible. And so understanding that culture and then saying like, well, how can we play off of that? How can we say, we do understand this, we are a part of this, and now we want to make fun of this because we understand it. I think that's like the root of what I'm trying to say, because I understand that sometimes these kinds of ideas can be shocking, but I think that's exactly what you want. You want to understand, well, why is that shocking? And I just think that humor, everyone does it. Louis C.K. does it with social media, where he pokes fun at people who are filming a moment instead of living in a moment. So he's doing it on his level, and we as Jews who have always used our humor wherever we are in this world are using it on our level. So I think that's really important to focus in on. And again, I encourage you, if you have any questions for me, I want to tell you that you can write me at livingstone.molly@gmail.com. You can also reach me at my other email, which is molly@israelforever.com. And how can you be a part of this laughter? Well, I'm glad that that is asked, because I think that's really important, that you can try and check out the Giggle Bites, because there are challenges there. There are home challenges and there are classroom challenges for educators, because I do think that humor in the classroom is probably more successful than anything else, because obviously you want your teacher to be in with you on a joke. So if you can do, like, for example, I just talked to you guys about the hummus in a bag. So the home challenge here is innovate and create your own quirky product. What kind of bag or package or produce that hasn't been done already can you invent, which is so Startup Nation. And if you're an educator, then you can take this idea, break up into groups, and supply the students with packaging and food and let them create their own quirky product. So this is using group effort and innovation and, of course, your presentation skills. And you can be in on this because you can hit record, I would hope, and just create something for us that we can share with the world, or just share on our page, or just see and say, you're here, we're here, and now we're together through the space and time of internet. So let's see, here's a question. What about people who have never been to Israel? How can they be a part of the laughter? A fair question. How can you be a part of the laughter if you have never been to Israel? Here's where I would suggest getting into your Jewish roots, because before I came on Birthright, I too had never been to Israel. And I think that what you need to figure out is, if Israel is, as Molly claims, which I do, a mecca of humor. Also, by the way, we're the third largest exporter of TV or entertainment, whatever you want to call it. We have TV shows now. You guys all know Homeland is one of ours, but there's lots of other shows as well, both humor and dark and scary. So I'd say get into your Jewish roots, whether that means understanding even in the Holocaust, there was humor that was being used, or survivors who use humor, and understanding them, understanding your Jewish parents or your Jewish grandparents or your cousin, whoever is out there. Reach out to them and try to connect first to humor as Jewish humor, and then go to Giggle Bites and start to see the Israeli humor and understand the Israeli humor, because then I think you can make those two connections. Okay, so some other questions. I can't find any inspiration. How can you help me? Ooh, is that like a deep question of life, or just in general in this contest? I would say, if we're focusing on this contest, because my therapy cannot be free and I can charge you later, but if we're focusing on the contest and asking ourselves about inspiration, this is really actually great, because I think you need to look at everyday life, or look at holiday situations. Like, have you ever had Passover at your house or your grandparents' house? Or we see it made fun of so much even in movies, like those Jewish snarky comments. Those are also Israeli, because Jews live in Israel. So I think it's finding inspiration in those very subtle moments. Even when it comes to, we have this upcoming holiday, of course, Purim, right? All of this humor we're hoping to culminate with videos in our own Purim spiel, which is a global Purim spiel where we get to show off some of the videos and also the judges who are comedians. So I would say, look at even just Purim. You as Jews, let's say in America, you have Halloween. That's like the big dress up. But as Jews, we also dress up at Purim. So where do you get lost? First of all, when I say that word, and I hesitate so much because sometimes people think that I might be saying porn. And even that for me is like a basis of like, oh my gosh, I am Jewish and I know what that means, but I'm like, my Christian friends won't understand me and they think I'm saying something that's completely inappropriate. So even that can be very inspiring and take it to the next level. So I would definitely say, look around you. Use material from everyday life. What does it mean for you to be Jewish? How do you define yourself as Jewish? Even that can inspire you to finding the humor. Because again, Jews and humor are practically, in my book, synonymous. Okay, we already answered, how can people who have never been to Israel get into this? How can you be a part of the laughter? I told you. You can check it out online. You can hashtag Israel Love or hashtag Laugh with Israel. See, I want to say Love with Israel because it's the same thing. And just hashtag and share and find things on the internet. You'll see that you'll start to see that supporters of Israel, for example, Roseanne Barr, Sacha Baron Cohen, who's another great comedian, Adam Sandler, Howard Stern, all of these people, when they talk about Israel in their support of Israel or in general about Jews, always have something funny to say. Even though she's unfortunately passed away, Joan Rivers, wow, she's had some really great moments. And this whole campaign, when we started it back in Hanukkah with the idea of light and laughter, laughter being the light, where we wanted to have that go throughout the whole year. So we had a blog where we showed like who supports Israel, who are comedians, and they're so funny in what they say and what they do. Even Bill Maher, like the most liberal of all people, can say such poignant things using humor. And I don't think you could do that without the humor. And I think that if you check out those blogs on our site at israelforever.org, you can see all of that. So how can kids get involved? I think kids can redefine what humor is for us as Jews today and connect in the next level, because we're always trying to look for that connection of the next generation to Israel. How do the Jews in the diaspora connect with the Jews of Israel? Which I think is a really fair question. And I would say humor is your answer. So how can kids get involved? They can get on our educators track, where we're giving challenges out to schools, like examples I gave you from the Giggle Bites, where we really want the classroom to become a place of, I think, like a writing room, like if you were going to do a TV show, I want like ideas out there and crazy ideas and support and research, right? Like the best comedy, it's not just like what I think is funny, but does everyone think this is funny? And why would everyone think this is funny? Why is this kind of humor funny? And exploring that. To me, that's like when we talk about improvisation, a big thing that is used at improv school, Upright Citizen Brigade, which is Amy Poehler's school. Amy Poehler, of course, is famous, and she's famous with Tina Fey. They talk about playing to the top of your intelligence, which means being true to yourself and being honest to yourself, and then finding out what that self, why those things are funny around yourself. And the only way you can do that is when, especially in improv, but here in humor as well, when you're creating a sketch, when you're creating a song together, when you're creating improv together, when you're creating a commercial that's going to be for us, or a video, whatever it is, it's a group dynamic where there's respect for each other to be able to play to the top of your intelligence and to share with each other. So I think that for kids, definitely in the classroom, and also families. This could be like a really fun family challenge to say, like, as a parent, I want to connect with my kid, and this is a great way to talk about Israel and to use humor and to open up, because humor breaks those boundaries down. We feel more comfortable in our humor. Finally, I think Alana wanted to point this out. You know, I'm crazy about calendars and crazy calendars. So one of the fun things that, you know, you could do is to get your kids dressed up as Israelis that inspire them. So that could be like, I would personally take my 2-year-old and dress him up as Ben Gurion, you know, the first prime minister of Israel, but also known to have that like really crazy hairdo that sometimes my husband rocks too. He heard me. He's Israeli. Anyways, I would have him dressed up as like Ben Gurion, and then like there's a famous poster of him where he's on his head. He did like crazy yoga, of course. The first prime minister of Israel did crazy yoga. And at an not elderly age, I don't want to offend him or anybody else out there, but an older man had a bald spot and then hair coming out of here. And he goes on his head and he says, head, and the caption is headstrong for Israel. So I would totally dress my kid up like that to take that picture. And then if we get enough of those kinds of crazy pictures of like Golda Meir's or even famous Israelis today, I think that would be super appropriate. You have, I mean, if you want to dress your kid up like Bar Raffaelli, that's okay. David, who's the famous basketball player? I asked my husband, he's not even into basketball. He's a famous Israeli basketball player in America. So that could be, you got to help me out with the names because I'm not good. But there's so many famous Israelis now. You don't even know they're Israelis. That's what's so great, is like sometimes you don't even know that. See, that's how close we actually all are. So definitely get them dressed up. And another thing you can do, just some fun like one-off games can be things like charades, right? So putting in information and then coming out of it and seeing what more information you get out of it, because charades is always a fun way to be like, why do you know that? Or how do I not know that? So that's like an easy, fun way to do it. I'm going to stress again, and I'm going to end with this, that it's really important that you check out Oh no, tall Brody is not the answer. He's older. American Israeli who did basketball stuff. The one Caspi, Omri Caspi. I did it, and I had help. But Omri Caspi, he's the young guy now, and he's out there playing. So that's just side note. The last thing I'm going to say, if I haven't stressed it quite enough, is that to go to israelforever.org. You can check out the Laugh with Israel program. You can check out the rules. The contest is going to end next week. It's not a contest. I say contest, I mean it's more of a campaign. Because the truth is, even though it officially will end next week for Purim, I think this is something that we at Israel Forever feel is something that will be forever. Humor is forever. It's been going on through the ages. I'm telling you, you can read the Torah and find some little giggly parts. And here in our campaign and in our initiative, we created Giggle Bites for you to be able to see how Americans, like BuzzFeed did, the Americans Try Israeli Snacks. So it's from both ways. It's taking those little nuances. Oh, and my favorite, I'm just looking on Giggle Bites right now, who came here on Comedy for Kobe, which is a fantastic program that Avi Lieberman, who's a comedian in America, brings these top stand-up comics that perform on the late night circuits, perform all over America all the time, who are super busy, take a week out. He brings them over to raise money for comedy, for Kobe Mandel Foundation, which is victims of terror and families that have been victimized by the terror. And these comedians go around and they perform all over Israel in English. Their stand-up from America, which transcends, and it's funny here for us too. And then they see like little things that happen here in Israel, and they take that back home with them, kind of like what I said at the beginning with Seinfeld. So Ian Edwards is such a funny comedian, and he went on Conan, and he was able to do this so well, and I don't want to try to do it. So I'm going to encourage you that you must watch this on from Giggle Bites. And then you can check out all the other things, How to Be Israeli by Tal Solomon, who also like stresses that point. We're going to add more stuff here. You can, of course, another comedian that you can check out, some of our judges, like I said, is Aaron Friedman. We have Yossi Toraboulos. I can't even say his name properly, which is probably material for him. A very funny Israeli stand-up comic here. Benji Lovett, who's an American who came to Israel and found like little things, like he and I both have like a similar joke that they butcher our names. So he's Ben Gay, I'm Muli. Well, we all have that. Like, what would your name be if you came to Israel? Find an Israeli, ask an Israeli. They're everywhere. And I think it's really important to remember that and not be afraid of the humor. Embark on the humor. Let yourself go into the humor and really laugh with Israel. Really take it to that level and challenge yourselves and challenge your classroom and the typical education and the typical understanding of Israel. Really challenge yourself, because Israel is not the place you see in the news. And Israel Forever always guides you into that direction, making Israel more personal and connecting to Israel. And you don't have to know anything about Israel to go on our website, israelforever.org, and just start to get to learn about Israel through the blogs, through the programs, and through our initiatives. So thank you so much for this webinar. I hope you've enjoyed me talking, because this is what I like to do, really, honestly, is talk a lot. So you've given me that. So you've kind of done like your mitzvah for the week, if you want to check that off. But I'm going to challenge you and say, make a video, a 10-second video, a 20-second video, a 30-second video, using examples from Giggle Bites, finding the challenges, or bringing it to your teachers if you're watching this and you're a kid and you're like, I don't want to learn the typical boring way we normally learn. Sorry, I'm so sorry I said that. But kind of true. And just challenge yourselves and have a great week and get into our Purim Adar. It's the Jewish month of Adar, which is like fun, loving spirit. And just get crazy with your bad self, because as Israelis would say, "Yeh beseder," it's going to be okay. So on that note, I think I'm officially done with this webinar. You have been a very good and fair audience. I hope that you've enjoyed my hairdo. I apologize. Thanks. Remember, hashtag Laugh with Israel or hashtag Israel Love. Everything you can find online, israelforever.org and laughwithisrael.org, and share.